Obi-Wan Kenobi Episode 4 is predictably peanut butter and jam-packed with Easter eggs and references that you may have missed. Massive spoilers ahead, so for the love of God, you have been warned. The struggles continue in Part 4 as the galaxy's rustiest Jedi embarks on an epic mission to rescue the rather important Princess Leia from the deep depths of Fortress Inquisitorious. I'm out of breath. The rescue mission is successful, but boy does Kenobi pay a heavy toll, and the threat of Darth Vader still looms large. If you want to watch Obi-Wan yourself, click on the exclusive Disney Plus link in the description. That is our gift to you, my friends. From Jedi Corpse cameos to OG trilogy parallels, Episode 4 is stuffed to the brim. It really gave me new hope for the series. After Episode 3 ended with Obi-Wan getting badly burned in the field of fire by the very scary hands of Vader, Part 4 begins with Tala and her allies submerging the deep-fried Jedi in a Bacta Tank. These healing chambers have popped up numerous times throughout the franchise, but the design of this Bacta Tank is very similar to the one Luke Skywalker used in The Empire Strikes Back. The episode's direction and framing pays homage to the original trilogy by closely mirroring Luke's recovery on Hoth. Bacta Tanks, they help you get back to yourself. Captured by Imperial Inquisitors, Princess Leia is seated in the interrogation room, pleading to the stormtroopers that her father is a senator and that she is a princess on Alderaan. This particular scene parallels Carrie Fisher's Leia as a prisoner aboard the Death Star in A New Hope, when she argues, quote, "I'm a member of the Imperial Senate on a diplomatic mission to Alderaan." It's good to see the character never lost her feisty and defiant attitude. Must be a princess thing. Speaking of Leia's wonderful trip to the fortress, besides being a nod to her torture chamber in A New Hope, the room where she is brought to be punished for her silence bears a strong similarity to the one where Rey was, almost, interrogated in The Force Awakens. And, on top of that, this torture chamber also makes an appearance in Jedi Fallen Order. Torture may be a specialty of the Empire, but I feel like you can wrench just about anything you're looking for right out of your hostage's melon with Force dominance. Handy. When Obi-Wan, Tala, and their allies hatch a plan to infiltrate Fortress Inquisitorious, Ice Cube's own son brings up a holographic map of the water moon Nur, where the imposing building is located. Let me tell you, you better be a strong swimmer if you're a Jedi. Although we've already seen this location on Disney Plus, Episode 4 marks the first direct mention of Nur, which was first introduced as canon in the Jedi Fallen Order video game. Speaking of the Fantastic Fortress, infiltrating the base is no easy task, but Obi-Wan Kenobi manages it just fine by approaching it underwater. This nods once again to Jedi Fallen Order, as Cal Kestis also sneaks into the Empire stronghold by swimming into a vent. You'd think it'd be harder to get into a Sith fortress, but it seems the Empire has an ongoing problem with vents. Speaking of the aquatic activity, Obi-Wan uses a breathing apparatus to swim into the previously stated vents, and these same metallic contraptions are featured in Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, when Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon Jinn swim down to Gunga City on Naboo. I guess using these devices is a much more enjoyable option than Jar Jar giving you CPR. No Obi-Wan Kenobi Easter egg haul would be complete without some props from the original Star Wars trilogy. The white handheld communicators Obi-Wan and Tala use are Commlinks, first seen in A New Hope. When Tala gets asked for identification by an Imperial security officer, the pen-like object she hands over is a code cylinder, which also dates back to 1977. It's an older code, but it checks out. For such strict security, they sure do let a lot of good guys in. Let's dig a bit deeper into the Commlinks. When Tala is called from her station by a suspicious colleague, she leaves her Commlink abandoned on the desk, and Obi-Wan can be heard still shouting into the ether on the other end. This scene is reminiscent of a moment in A New Hope, when Luke Skywalker is stuck in the Death Star's trash compactor. He's yelling at C-3PO through a Commlink, but the droid's device is left idly on a desk. Commlinks definitely have their pros and cons. Great for chatting with friends, terrible for hiding from troopers.
Did you hear that?
We're all fine here now, thank you. How are you?
The members of the Path possess a couple, well, one now, spoiler, of the T-47 airspeeders. These iconic light vehicles were first seen in The Empire Strikes Back, used by Luke Skywalker and his fellow rebels during the Battle of Hoth. These sweet rides never cease to impress. I'm not pulling your leg here. Obi-Wan's visit to the fortress demands a crowd of background actors, naturally, many of whom play your standard stormtroopers or Imperial officers. But a couple variations hide among the crowd. In the hangar area, Tala walks past an Imperial Starfighter pilot, known for flying the TIE fighters in the Star Wars original trilogy. Later in the episode, Obi-Wan faces a stormtrooper squadron commanded by a soldier wearing black armor with a red shoulder plate. Though the helmet design is slightly altered, these are very likely Purge troopers. Serving directly under the Inquisitors, Purge troopers previously appeared in Marvel's Darth Vader comic series and Jedi Fallen Order. Love the black armor, boys. It's very slimming. To his horror, Obi-Wan discovers the fortress's basement is jam-packed with preserved bodies of deceased Jedi, and some of them will be familiar to the Star Wars faithful. When Kenobi first enters the chamber, the pointy-headed dude to the immediate right of the shot looks like Commlinks, who appeared in both Revenge of the Sith and the Clone Wars. Easiest to identify is Tera Sinube, also hailing from the Clone Wars. Sinube's corpse is the braided small alien Kenobi looks directly at. The remaining bodies are more or less open to interpretation. Collecting them is kind of a weird hobby though, but whatever. Suddenly, Carbonite doesn't seem so bad. The Dead Jedi in Obi-Wan Part 4 are reminiscent of Star Wars Rebels Season 1's Rise of the Old Masters, where Ezra and Kanan were lured to the Spire by the Empire in order to rescue Luminara, only to find her remains. Gross. Obi-Wan's Easter egg implies Luminara's body might simply have been moved from Fortress Inquisitorious to the Spire. Remind me not to get on the Empire's bad side. Good lord. Facing Darth Vader on Mapuzo, Obi-Wan's lightsaber combat was sloppier than Grogu's blue puke. That's so gross. But as Obi-Wan takes down the stormtroopers in Part 4, shades of his connection with the Force begin to return. His lightsaber form Sarisu, also known as Form 3, or the Way of the Minok. It's a defensive style he mastered after Qui-Gon was killed by Darth Maul. This is in direct opposition to Vader's much more aggressive style of Form 5, the Way of the Krayt Dragon, which, despite losing a few limbs, is strong as ever. I guess it must be like muscle memory. Pretty impressive. I'm still working on my Shi-Cho, man. Tala tries averting Reva's suspicious gaze by telling her Obi-Wan and the Path are both on the planet Florrum. This planet was first featured in the Clone Wars' Season 1's Dooku's Captured. An Outer Rim planet and home to the pirate Hondo Onaka, Florrum makes perfect sense for a spot to lay low. I would have believed Tala since it seems that Jedi like hiding on desert planets. Must be all the sand. Anakin was never a big fan.
I don't like sand.
There are many references for the Clone Wars fans, and the first that comes to mind would be that Reva mentions the planet Balnab. This locale first appeared in the Nomad Droids, a Season 4 episode of the animated series. Balnab is an underdeveloped and primitive world in the Mid-Rim that's only inhabitants during the Clone Wars were some shipwrecked aliens that ended up being controlled by a few pit droids. Those little fellas do seem like the nefarious type. Obi-Wan Kenobi's Fortress Inquisitorious may not be a hive of droid activity, but the R-type astromech and an Imperial mouse droid can both be spotted in the fray. The latter doesn't fare too well. Droids have feelings too, man! Poor mouse! What did he ever do to you? When Wade and Sully assault the fortress to rescue Obi-Wan, Leia, and Tala, they're wearing helmets and goggles very similar to the gear eventually used by the Rebel Alliance. This small detail teases how the underground movement will ultimately evolve throughout the years. Another great example of what a few skilled pilots can do against a whole armada of stormtroopers. Darth Vader is predictably displeased by Obi-Wan and Leia's escape and begins choking out Reva in revenge. Vader's habit of remotely choking employees was first established in A New Hope, when a brave Imperial demonstrated a disturbing lack of faith. I feel like the stormtroopers need better benefits. Maybe a union or something? That's gotta be a workplace violation. Our hero sneaks aboard the Imperial base to liberate a princess from the evil empire that seeks to squeeze information from her regarding an underground resistance movement. Boy, does that sound familiar. From start to finish, Obi-Wan Kenobi Episode 4 is essentially the Death Star rescue mission from A New Hope. The fan service is palpable, and everything, much like the Force itself, is cyclical, baby. This is an easy one to miss. It doesn't appear in the subtitles, man. Stormtroopers only seem to have one thing on their mind. If it's not catching rebel scum, it's the status of the problematic T-15 and its future models. We can see the evolution of this often remarked upon and yet wholly ambiguous tech through idle conversation between troopers, which appears to become obsolete and gets reinvented over and over again by the Empire's R&D department. I guess there's no weather in space, so they need something to talk about. Alrighty, there goes episode 4, and we already want some more! Catch us next week with episode 5. Did we notice anything that you didn't? If so, let us know in the comments below. And as always, everybody, thanks for watching.